your version of success, what your business looks like, does not have to be what everyone else is building. I get jealous sometimes because I don't have a physical product that somebody can put on their face or put on their body.
Oh, you could, girl. We can work on that. We can find you something.
We could. But then I think what I have to stay in my lane.
Yep.
And so when I think about acquisitions is I think about, okay, what is the lane that we're swimming in?
Yeah.
What stroke am I the best at?
Yes, say that.
And I don't want to muddy the waters where they go, I don't get it. Keep an open mind, have the conversation, and you know what? Maybe if it doesn't work out, don't shut the door all the way. Leave it a little cracked and you never know where it could come.
You were made to do more in life than just pay bills and get by. The key to even more success? Get your assets together. With generational growth, we're not just talking about wealth. This is about building your version of an incredible life in every area that truly matters: mind, body, business, and self-care. What if I told you there's a life-changing opportunity to help yourself, even now and especially now? I'm Cate Hart, an expert on being both well and wealthy. I've spent decades building what's basically my own investment fund, emphasis on fun, acquiring and growing unique brands with capital, partnerships, and strategic support. I'm here to empower you to go further faster with an anti-hustle, no burnout path to getting richer and more financially fit for investing, acquisition, and growing everything you own. Let's grow.
Something that you and I have in common that's so interesting is around being acquirers of businesses.
Yes. Yeah.
It's that rare, very unique way of looking at how to grow.
Yeah. Yes.
And yet I've never met another acquirer. So this is an exciting conversation to
Yeah,
have.
it is.
We've had
It's
lots
great.
of conversations outside of this.
Yeah.
And really my intention for today is to give people a peek into your prowess and to talk about your versions of growth. I always say when I think about generational growth, which is the name of the mini-series, it's about more than just wealth. You know, what do you own and who you are collides. And so generational growth is this concept of what we pass down to our colleagues, what we pass down to people that work for us, our kids or our nieces, is really, really important. And it's sometimes overlooked with all the hustle and the bustle and the wealth mindset.
Yeah, and the glamorization of the overnight successes and the unicorns, which I love to say, and I said this last year when I was speaking or this year actually, at South by. I was on a wonderful panel for Inc. Magazine, and there was a founder who had exited and with a valuation of at $1 billion, and then there was another founder that multiple exits. And I was looking out in the audience, and I'm thinking it's really hard for young, meaning young, not as an age, but young businesses. You're a couple years in, you might even be 10 years in. You're like, wow, when am I going to get there?
Yeah.
And I sort of stopped and said, by the way, if your goal is to get to $100,000 or $1 million or build a $10 million business, that's wonderful. And that's okay.
Gosh.
But you have to be okay with that. And taking nothing away from these two incredible founders on this panel, your version of success, what your business looks like, does not have to be what everyone else is building.
Yes.
And just like we were talking about before, I get jealous sometimes because I don't have a physical product that somebody can put on their face or put on their body.
Oh, you could, girl. We can work on that. We can find you something.
We could. But then I think what I have to stay in my lane.
Yep.
And so when I think about acquisitions is I think about, okay, what is the lane that we're swimming in?
Yeah.
What stroke am I the best at?
Yes, say that.
And for my consumers, my customers, which we call at Luminary, our members. And I don't want to muddy the waters where they go, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I think about, just kind of back to the acquisition, it's I want to have growth, organic growth, but then I also want growth by acquisition. But you have to be very strategic.
Yes.
And you have to think about what's that going to do, not only for ultimately your customer, but also for your bottom line, for your expenses, for your team. Well, first of all, it's never easy, but there's a lot of things that have to be evaluated versus, oh, this just looks great on paper and it's going to make the headlines.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, say that, because I think that's the thing we have most in common is it's not necessarily important to be notorious in what we're doing. It's that I call it operating in stealth, where I'm just like, I don't need to be showy about what I have, what I own, what's in my bank account. I love the impact of acquisition. I love the idea of, and you said this so eloquently, so I won't be able to top it, but like I have these skill sets, right?
Yeah.
And I have these other aspects of my assets. So intellectual property, customer lists, products now, services, everything you can think of. And so I'm constantly looking at it from that perspective. It's like, what in my zone of genius can I apply to this business so we can actually become something even better?
Even better.
That's the goal.
Absolutely. And be accretive to the overall business.
Yes.
I was talking to someone about a year ago and they said, oh, well, if you listen to what McKinsey says, they say acquisitions don't work. It's like, yeah. There are definitely acquisitions that don't work. Yep. But when you find the right business, and you have to sort through a lot in order to find those right business. Sometimes they come to you and sometimes you're proactively going out there. It's why I talk about this, because number one, I want people to know, hey, I'm open. Yeah. I'm open to the conversation. Let's talk. But two, that many small business owners either don't think that they are a target for acquisition or that they can acquire. And this is what we bonded over.
Love that you said that.
Which is not every business is going to be millions and millions of dollars and you have to go into debt in order to acquire it. The other thing is not every business is going to be worth millions and millions of dollars.
Say that.
And so really thinking through what is the added value that business, whether you're running them separately or like what we've done at Luminary is we've sort of integrated them into the business. And we've done it now 3 times. And each of those has successes.
Of course.
And then you also have some, I don't want to call them failures, but things that didn't work within them. And that's actually not a bad thing.
That's right.
Because you have to figure out what's right for your customer. And not everybody's going to go, well, this is a match made in heaven.
Yeah, and it's data at the end of the day.
And it's data. Yeah. And what I also love about acquiring, and I will say this, especially for the last 2 that we did, The Crew, which was in the end of 2023, and Hey Mama, which was earlier this year, was the people.
Yeah, of course.
The people, right? There's one thing if you're just acquiring the assets of the business, but if you're also within those assets acquiring people or have the opportunity to hire people that are really good, and we've been so fortunate in finding some of those. I look at 3 of our employees today that are from the Crew acquisition.
Wow.
The best thing out of the Crew acquisition was those people.
I bet.
One of the people that we acquired through our Hey Mama acquisition, both the CEO and the founder didn't want to continue on. One stayed on our board, but one of the people that worked there, she is like a diamond.
Wow.
And we are so lucky that we were able to not only acquire the business, but the people. And then I'll just share one other thing is you also never know where those conversations are going to lead. And not every strategic conversation is going to lead to an acquisition. We went through a process to acquire another company earlier this year that didn't end up working out for many reasons. But in that process, we found an individual that we just thought was outstanding.
Wow.
And so when that didn't work out, we talked to that person who was not staying on at that company, and she's joining our team. So you just never know also what can come out of those conversations. So never shut a door.
Well, we have so much alignment there, and we have differences. For me, sometimes you get the assets and you have some of the people.
Yes.
And that works for me. I tend to run businesses that are kind of lower, I would say high touch, but lower influence when it comes to the community and the people. We usually infuse that into our existing community. However, what you nailed so well is sometimes the asset you're buying is not the asset that you signed the paperwork for.
Right. No, absolutely.
Truly.
Absolutely. And sometimes when you really get in there,
yeah,
you're sort of like, wait a second, this isn't what we spent weeks or months on due diligence
That's
looking at, and sometimes the numbers don't make sense, and sometimes they do. Hopefully they do, if you've done good due diligence. But there's always surprises.
It's always a surprise. I tell the people this all the time. I never want to scare anyone away from acquiring.
Right.
However, there's always something I didn't
Always.
consider. If you're lucky, it's like, man, I need to put a little more sweat equity in.
Right.
All right, fine.
Totally.
Maybe a little capital, working capital that I didn't foresee. Maybe there's like a synergy there on the upside that you didn't even foresee being a benefit. But a lot of times there's at least one other shoe that has to drop.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think what I like, it's like you have to be cautiously paranoid.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
That, okay, nothing is ever going to be 100%.
Yeah.
And coming from my background, I went through working in the banks that I worked at, they acquired big other banks, right? And you think, oh, this is great when the news comes out.
Yeah.
And then going through the integration, the acquisition, cultures colliding, all of that, even that's at a big business, right? Where you've got infrastructure.
That's right.
When you come down to a small business doing that, but there's so much opportunity if you can just get through that initial pain and see what's on the horizon.
Yeah.
And I think that for me is why when I'm looking at an acquisition or even in the midst of one, that excites me the most. Yeah. But two, and we've looked at over the last, let's call it 5 years, we'll turn 7 this year. There have been 3 acquisitions that I was like, I want this. I want it. And they didn't happen for lots of reasons, and everything happens for a reason. But then people will say, oh, but we just wasted all this time. No, we learned so much. It's interesting. A friend of mine who is in private equity, and he's a great advisor to me, said to me, when you get through a deal and it doesn't happen, you have to do a gut check. Are you relieved or are you depressed? And this last one, I was a little bit of both. But I thought, there's no way I'm going to do this and put my company, the parent, if you will, in harm's way or my people. And that's what would have happened. So, and you never say never. You never know when those might become opportunities again.
That's right.
And we've seen that kind of happen in some of the others that we've looked at. But I think the learning opportunity, for me especially,
it's so true.
And then if you can bring your team into it, certain members of your team, where they're learning and they're getting exposure that they've never had before, that's also just remarkable, I think, when you think about the talent journey for someone working in a small business. It can get a little monotonous.
Sure.
Or it's just so fast paced and people get burned out and all of that in any type of startup, whether you've raised or not. And so I think giving people the opportunity to learn differently is such a gift.
It's actually how I got to acquiring. I had a very first client on the consulting side who wanted me to leave. I was consulting in-house at a really big company and wanted me to go out on my own and be his consultant, and he'd be my first client. And he was for years. And I never thought what he was doing was interesting in the moment. Like, we were acquiring dental clinics and flipping them. But I look back, and the very moment that I was ready to kind of do my next venture, I was like, why would I do anything but growth by acquisition? It just made so much sense because I was there for the journey. I saw when it went well. I saw when it didn't. I saw what we did with the employees and what we did with the former owner. We would keep them on as an employee for a year or two. And I look back, and he did so much more for me than just, be a great client. I really did absorb his knowledge.
Oh, when I started, but even before I got into finance, I was working, this is in the 90s. I was working in the late 90s. I was working at a startup tech company, and it was a tiny little tech company. They were way ahead of their time because they were building intranets before intranets even existed.
Wow.
And I remember the CEO of the company at the time and the CTO, they were the two founders. They called me in their office and they said, hey, listen, do you have a passport? I said, yeah, I have a passport. And they're like, okay, you're going to China. We are looking at entering into the Chinese market, and we're going to do that by JV. Now, again, I'm in my early 20s. I didn't even know what JV
was just
meant.
thinking, back then I would have been like junior varsity.
Yeah. And Google didn't exist.
Yeah.
Right. It was like, and so I went into at the time, my boss's office, who was the CTO, which was, again, it was a startup. So everybody kind of reported to each other. And I was like, what is a JV? And he's like, a joint venture. I'm like, what is that? And he's like, well, you have to come together, and here I'm going to give you a book.
Wow.
So a book.
A real
kids
book.
out there listening.
Tangible
a real
book.
And he's like, and you're going to learn on the job. And I think that we did. We set up joint ventures in China with 3 very large Chinese companies in the tech space. And then, it was the bubble and the burst and all of that, the bust. And then I got recruited into finance. And it was really interesting because my job was to learn finance because I didn't come from that area. But I was part of this corporate development team that was looking at international markets to enter. And so our goal for this like little SWAT team was to do a lot of research. Like, why is this market sexy? What from a customer standpoint? And at the time it was consumer finance based. And so I got Mexico for the sole reason that I spoke Spanish.
Wow.
Badly. But and I learned very early. So you do a greenfield entry like on your own. Do you buy something, or do you do a joint venture? And so I go back to that, and we ended up doing a joint venture with a Mexican bank, and then Bank of America bought the bank that I worked for, and that all went away. But I know those 2 early experiences really helped me think through when I started to look at opportunities during the pandemic.
Wow.
It all comes back to those because I was learning so much and never thought this is going to be relevant in my life.
Same.
Right. And then now it is. And obviously then I stayed in finance for almost 2 decades, but looking at a balance sheet, understanding cash flow, understanding their debt, right? Saying, can you share your latest cash flow statement, your P&L? And when you get a founder that goes, what? You go, that's probably not the business I want to buy.
Yep. That happens quite frequently. And even today, and there's so much you said there that I think is so encouraging, particularly why I'm doing this with generational growth. I believe acquirers are made, they're not born. And you just nailed that. In my heart, I think about this statistic that I kind of stumbled across, right? Everybody knows about the 2% of women who aren't getting funding from venture capital. I'm like, well, what the fuck happens to the women who have the opportunity to buy assets and to build their own, portfolio of assets? Right. Who's thinking about that? And really no one.
Really, you're right.
Like you, me, maybe 2 other gals in another country, who knows? And when I keep coming back to this, I go, well, if we can just get 1% of women to start thinking differently about their assets. We're great consumers. Women control 80% of spending.
Absolutely.
I would really like us to be better owners and to be owners of things that are very valuable, not things that are laden in debt, that have, 17 white guys that are over them.
Yes.
But to truly be the captain of your own ship means that you call the shots and you have the ability to be a true owner.
Yeah.
And that is so hard, I think, to explain to someone who has no exposure to acquisition. And so I'm hopeful that we can be more open about what that journey looks like from the small, like my smallest deal is $30,000.
Yeah.
So from the really small ones.
Which there you go, right there.
No one talks about
30,000. Like that is the thing. People think that, oh, I can't do this because it's going to be millions and millions of dollars. And yes, there are plenty of businesses that are going to cost that. But then there are plenty of businesses that do not. And it just takes being open and saying, okay, if I look at this company, it's not just about the dollars. It's everything else. It's how does it add value? What kind of asset is it? Is it performing? It just happens to be early, or maybe they have the wrong model for monetization.
That's right.
And I can change that model because I know what to do.
That's right.
And that's what I'm always looking at when I look at, okay, how do they monetize? And none of this is ever perfect, but are there little things that you can put in place without investing a ton of money?
That's right.
To be able to, let's say, revise the model where you can flip that. I think it's also hard when people think about acquisition because I think there's a fear or almost a paralysis of what if I do this and I then lose all those customers?
Yeah, of course.
Listen, you're going to lose customers. That just happens. I bought with that company. I didn't buy from you, or this is the name on the door. I don't like this name on the door, and that's going to happen. There's also, I just think, natural fear in people going, oh, the unknown.
Change
I don't know what.
always
I don't know.
begets more change. Always.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you can't let that stop you.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this earlier, but I think it's customers, and I think customers are the smartest they've ever been because they can look online and find everything.
Yep.
They can talk to people all over the world that they don't even know through our social platforms and say, hey, what do you think about this product or service or company? You can go on Glassdoor and find out, should I get a job at this company? All of the things. We're still choosing to think customers aren't as smart as us. They're smarter. So they want value. And I think whenever we're looking at something, it's like, what additional value not only can they provide or deliver me, what additional value can the combined business deliver to them?
Yeah. You know, you said this so well. I think about what's perceived as a weakness maybe by the prior owner could be a strength for the right acquisition. And so it's less about the dollar amount, to your point. I know everybody gets excited, you know, this idea of this $200 million acquisition that they hear about. But where I see real value with acquisition is you get to maintain a community and a product or service that may have gone away.
Yeah.
And then two, there are always economies of scale and I think value that can be added. A lot of real estate professionals get it when I say you can force appreciation. You can add that value and make the business more interesting, maybe less complex, maybe more complex. But there's so much to, I think, that first leap. And I maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but I think for women, when I have that conversation with them, there's two things that always come up. One, they don't feel like they have their assets together. And so they don't know that they're even in a financial position to share, to go to that next step. And that's why I always share my lowest amount that I've ever acquired for. So I want people to know, I mean, there's businesses you can acquire for a couple $1,000s that get you started just to try it out, see what it feels like. And there are other ways to try out investing in businesses. But I'm curious your thoughts on like that first step for someone who maybe says, you know, so great, Cate, that you had a really fancy banking background and okay, that you had all this cash flow in the bank. But how do I get started when I'm still on my asset journey? I'm still in my money journey.
Yeah. And I think the other thing just to add is it's not always about the cash. There's a lot of ways to structure an acquisition or a deal. There's revenue share.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
There's an earnout, right? Which really is performance based on the business. And then there's combination. There's also, if you're open to equity, right, of your own company or the combined company. So I think the other thing is to educate yourself before you even, whether you're looking to get acquired or you're looking to acquire, before you even start to think about, okay, these are the businesses that I think I can buy, but they're going to be too expensive, is to educate yourself on the different types of structures. Because oftentimes when I'm presented to something, they'll say, well, the first conversation's always like, well, this is what we think we can sell for or what we want. It's like, that's great. Walk me through the numbers and how you got there. And then before we even get to what I think the structure is, and Tiffany Dufu, who is the founder and was the founder of The Crew, which we acquired, and she was the CEO. And I knew her, and she was a member at Luminary, and we were great friends, and we still are. She's on our board. I remember having the conversation very early on and very transparently. And I said, if you were to sell this business, what does success look like for you?
Good question.
And this is public knowledge and information, so I'm not speaking out of school here. What I loved about her answer was, when I want to find a home for this community that I've built. Number one, didn't even cross her mind to say herself as the founder. Number two, her team.
Wow.
Number three, her investors. Wow. Number four was her.
Interesting. Not shocking given the quality and the character of the person. But
exactly. Now, I would say she should have probably put herself up there a little earlier, but that's Tiffany and she's amazing. But so, okay, now I know we've got to find a home for the customer, her customers. She wants to take care of her team. So then when we thought about, and by the way, from the investor side, for me, and by the way, take it or leave it, I don't really care about the investor. Yeah. They invested in that business. This is a whole new.
That's right. I love that you said that. It's a very hard thing to explain about how and why you clear the cap table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's for whoever you're acquiring to handle those conversations. Now, if there's equity involved, et cetera. But having those early conversations and being transparent, I think is really important, because what you don't want to do, now there's always going to be surprises in the financials, but what you don't want to do is get weeks or months down the road and then you come to realize that you both have two very different versions of what this is going to look like for the product, the service, or the customer. And I think all of the acquisitions that for the serious ones we've looked at and the 3 that we've done, there was always this, we want to take care of the customer.
That makes sense.
And that really aligns with Luminary and how we want to take care of our community, our members, both from the consumer side and then on the enterprise side, which is, 65% of our business is B2B, which most people don't
realize that. Yeah.
And so the second thing that I do when we're looking, and I would recommend as people are looking at these things, is which of your customers does it impact or deliver value for? So when we look at something, we look at, is it going to deliver value for the whole business? It may not. It may just be for the B2B side. Yeah. It may be only for, for example, Hey Mama. That was a true community acquisition. And we're buying a community of members that had been around for 10 years.
Wow, was it 10 years?
10 years.
I didn't realize it was that long.
And her co-founder, Katia, built that over 10 years. And so that's a well-established business and community. And so that was something that we also had to take into consideration. But when I would write these things down as a if you are just sort of scratching the surface. Yeah. Why do I want to buy this? What's the why? Yeah. What's it going to deliver for you, for the business, but ultimately for the customer? Now, I love what you do where you're building this portfolio. Not everything has to fit together like Jenga.
Not perfectly,
right?
But there's some.
And you can also build a whole portfolio or even at a parent level, businesses that are not going to be all intertwined. And that's another way to look at acquisition. Yeah. The way we've done it is just thinking about business or product verticals, the community aspect, and then what is going to, obviously, we would love it to add to both the top and the bottom line.
Yeah, it's interesting you say this because of that mindset that I have. I believe a great acquirer can see the forest through the trees. And so they can look at maybe a business that looks like a failure from a different perspective and say, well, what is that piece of the business that I'm looking at this for? And where can it make it the next best thing, right? Yes. Where can it kind of become that new opportunity and get that refreshed life? And to your point, I think every acquisition I've ever done, it wasn't because I came to the table with the most money.
Right.
But truly because they saw a home for their business that was a better landing and I think more clearly Hart-led.
Yes.
And that's why they chose me. And sometimes they would choose me out of, multiple offers, even offers that were higher than me.
Right, because of that.
Right.
And I think that's also a good part of the story. You may think, and we spend a lot of time, I think in particular as women, second guessing, right, or overthinking. I'm generalizing, but I do feel that is there may be other offers. Number one, you don't want to get into that it's like when you're bidding for a house, I've got to have it. And then you are now house poor, right? Because you just had to have it. I think you have to really think strategically, but you don't also always know how they're looking at where they want their business to land. Yeah. So go with your gut and make sure that, again, it's in line with what you want. And like this, my friend in private equity said, are you relieved or you're depressed if it doesn't work out? And by the way, there'll always be others.
Yeah.
I think the other thing to think about something can seem so perfect and, oh my gosh, this is going to be tremendous for the business and the opportunity. But if it is going to put so much stress on your own balance sheet,
Yes.
on your team, on potentially your, the customer, depending on what you're buying, you really have to think about, is this the right thing to do? And is it the right time?
Yeah.
And it's hard because you get an ego about it.
Of
like,
course.
this is the right business to buy. What this? And it's hard. And then you got to just, if it's not the right time, it's not the right time and you have to move on. And I think really getting into whether you're buying it for $30,000 or you're buying it for $1 million or whatever it is, or you're doing a whole different structure, like I mentioned earlier, you've got to get into the numbers and really understand, one, how they're making money.
It's most important, to be honest.
If they're making money.
That's asterisk.
Are they losing money? Why are they losing money? That could be lack of investment. That could be people. That could be market. That could be lots of reasons. Take my business plan boot camp and we dive into all of those. But the other thing is, like, you have to also say, is this really, do I have the liquidity to keep running this business if I have to invest in it too?
Yes.
And I think people they get the stars in their eyes, like, this is going to be great. Yep. I see this number, it's going to add to mine. And then you forget about what it's going to take to not only run that business, but to integrate it into yours.
Oh my gosh, you hit so many things there that I feel like uniquely you don't figure out till you start looking at businesses or have acquired a few. But this idea of like, okay, my net worth, so this is just going to add the ego of it, right?
Yes.
It's like, oh, I own a blank insert number business is actually the worst reason to do this because it's going to need capital. It's going to need, I think sometimes changes that you wouldn't foresee.
Right.
And therefore, really, I think about wealth so uniquely, which is why this journey chose me.
Yeah.
It's never been about the money in the bank or what it looks like on the outside. I live, aggressively underneath my means.
Yeah.
And I love that because it allows me to think that way, even with regards to capital efficiency.
Same.
And that's a core tenet of a great acquirer is we have to look at kind of what's already been and then say, what could happen next financially? And do I have the wherewithal and the financial backing to do that?
Yes.
To take the worst case scenario and look at the best case scenario and then hope for something in the middle.
Yeah.
But be prepared for all of those.
And be prepared to make tough decisions if either it's not working out and or you've got to make cuts on people. And I think that's also very hard when somebody's been part of a business. And again, this goes back to having those early conversations with the team you're talking to about what are the people, And I always say, who are the people on the team that are critical to keep this going? Who are the must-haves and are there nice-to-haves, right? And I don't really like saying that about people, but that's true, right? You got to make business decisions. And then looking at your current team, especially if you're integrating and saying, okay, is this person like a franchise player? They can go and do more.
Right.
And we've done that, all three. And the other thing that I will say is I have learned this over time. Who are you buying from? So it is very different to buy a company from a founder than buying from a fund or an investor.
Such good advice. I bought from all of them at this point.
They think very differently.
Yes.
All three of our acquisitions have been founder to founder, meaning the founder was still involved in leading the business. All three of them also had raised outside capital.
Interesting.
But the founder was still leading the business. Two of which that we looked at that didn't move forward, the founder was no longer involved.
Interesting.
And it was being run by either a CEO, but heavily influenced by the investors. And that was a very different process.
I bet.
And very different discussions, because at the end of the day, they're not looking at their baby and their community and where their team lands. They're looking more on the financial side.
Wow, you actually are going to teach me something today, because I'm running into more deals like that now versus just a founder who, came to this place.
Right.
And those deals, I'm going to say there's a lot of knuckle draggers between the investors and sometimes the founder who just can't let go that things have to be different.
Yeah.
It's almost like sometimes they want it to die versus to get to the next step.
Yes. Oh, and I think that they can sabotage.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not crazy.
No, not at all. And then definitely. I think there's an emotional separation that has to happen. And I'll use both the crew and Hey Mama because love the teams and they were all still founders involved. But just being able to have those conversations, like what do you want out of this? If the founder is still involved, normally they want the business to hopefully live on.
Of course.
I think it's different when it's no longer led or managed by the founder because now you've got, again, if it's an investor, if it's a CEO or president, whatever you want to call them, that's like, I just got to get the best deal.
Yeah.
And if they've got other investors, if they've got lenders, they have to find the best deal.
That's right.
So you can't take it personally either. And I think that's also very hard, especially if you've got your sights set on something. Yeah. You're like, it's like right there.
That's what kills me. It's like the deals that I would make if there wasn't that.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. So many more. I think about it as impact, right? Like there's so much more I could do with my capital, with my skill, but I have to always go back to this rational way of thinking, which is some things just don't make sense.
Yeah. And don't get yourself into a bad deal because you think you have to have the business. I'll give you an analogy. So when I first started making real money as a banker, I remember one of my best friends, she lives out in San Diego. I think it was like I had gotten my first bonus and I was like, oh my gosh. I flew out there, we go to Palm Springs. It was like we used to do a girls trip. We still do, but we used to do it every year. And they have in Palm Desert, there's a Saks Fifth Avenue. And we walk in and I'm like, oh my God. And it's like, I have to have everything in here and I finally have money. And I bought my first nice Marc Jacobs bag.
How cute
it was.
Are you?
By the way, I'm picturing it right now. And I was like, I had to have it. I didn't care that, by the way, the shoulder straps were too short. It wasn't a good work bag. Like, it was just not functional.
Yeah.
But I spent all this money on it because I was like, this is for me. I have to have it. And it made me feel good. By the way, fast forward, I'm in Mexico City working. I set that bag down. There happened to be lights on the floor, burned a hole right through the bag.
Oh my God.
And it was like, they're my bag but I use that analogy because I think we get so focused on, I have to have this. This is for me. Yep. This is perfect without going, okay, let's take a step back and think things through. Is this really making sense? What's the functionality?
That's right.
What's it going to do for me? And so, listen, that's human nature, right? And at the end of the day, we're all customers, right? We're all consumers. And so we think emotionally. But we also have to, in any of these situations, even if you're like, this is the greatest deal ever and it's not that expensive. Okay.
Still got to be strategic.
Exactly. And what's the long-term play here?
Yeah, I always say there's two things I think of as a skill set that I never thought would be so helpful with this. One is being a detective. So my background with behavioral science means I look at things very intensely and very intentionally. And so it allows me to see like kind of beyond just the quantitative, the qualitative, and mixing those two together.
I love that.
So I always think a great acquirer is usually someone who's very inquisitive, like, looking up all my old boyfriends back in the day. It was probably like on the job training, I'm pretty sure. And then the second one is being a bit of a firefighter, like being able to hold space for things that maybe sometimes we have to hold two truths, which is like, oh my gosh, a lot of things are happening. And also I'm going to make changes, even despite it feels like there's so much going on. And so those are two really interesting skills that I think what I'm hearing from you layers into this idea of discipline, whether it's financial discipline, personal spending discipline. I always tell people, because I came from such a weird background doing this, is that personal finance and rigorous fiscal responsibility is the only way I got here. I couldn't imagine not continuing on that way, but this is a bit controversial. I do want to ask you about like the person and the founder and the business of today that I think everyone has decided that they're Hollywood. Everyone's decided they deserve more valuation than they have, that the business is more functional than it is. And with a cap table, it makes it even more confusing how to get to a good landing, a good acquisition for those. How do you tend to structure those specific deals? Are you seeing anything good there? Because I am having the hardest time in that space.
So again, a little controversial, right? If someone approaches me and says within the first couple of minutes of the conversation or in that email, the valuation is X, I'm like, come on, that's a piece of paper.
Literally.
That means absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Let's get into the numbers. Let's get into the business. I'm going to give you a great example. So we looked at a business, and of course they led with, this is our pre-money. This is our post-money. These are a lot of big terms to just, in my mind, make it sound like your business is a lot bigger.
That's
right?
how I feel.
And by the way, I'm sure there's lots of companies out there that have great valuations, but
Very happy for you.
Yes. And then a lot of that comes down to how much money you've raised.
Yeah.
And that also means nothing.
Literally.
It's a measurement. It is not a measurement of success.
That's right. I love
because
that.
most of that capital goes away when you look at the statistics.
That's right.
And those unicorns are 1 in a million. And for those that have been able to do that, amazing.
It's fantastic.
But it's
just not the norm.
No,
I always think the exit is actually not even the best case scenario.
Agreed.
Most founders after exit are depressed. They don't know what they're going to do next, and they didn't take home as much money as everybody thinks. So there's something so special about
Carrie
acquisition.
Kirpin, the founder of the Whisper Group, which I have to make this amazing connection, the two of you. She wrote a post yesterday on LinkedIn about this exact thing.
No way.
Yes. And she talks, her whole new company is about women in particular exiting and preparing for exiting and preparing for, like, what is your company even valued at?
Yeah.
And how do you get there? And how do you make it more valuable?
Yeah.
By the way, that's
a thing.
That's a thing in itself. We should be teaching everybody how to make their company more valuable.
That's right.
But I think going back to the valuation, I think that it's a number, right?
Yeah.
And I also love when people say, well, I think my company is worth X. I say, well, okay, that's a great number. How do you get there? Well, my brand is priceless. You're not MasterCard. And by the way, all of our brands are priceless.
Yeah.
We build them, so we love them and we nurture them. And it's that sweat equity. And a lot of times it's our own capital that's in there. But we've got to be realistic. And I think that a lot of people will come and say, well, here's what the business is generating revenue-wise, which is a good measurement. And I'll, again, giving you an example, one of the companies that we looked at, they came and said, here is what we're generating. Here's what we think. This is our next 3 to 5 years. The numbers were great. And so then we went in and looked at them and they said, okay, if we combine the business, great. And then peel the onion back. The only way they could get to those numbers was with a significant amount of capital infusion and investment. And it's like, no, that's not the story.
Yeah.
You should have said that as part of the original story, because it's going to drastically change the numbers.
Right.
If I'm not going to now take X amount of dollars and invest in addition to buying it in the business.
It should be factored into the deal. That was my biggest miss on my first deal, and I promised myself I'd never make that mistake again. It's like, if I'm taking over a lease for you, you better believe that's being factored into the deal, not just being the next thing that has to happen.
Right. The only way to do this is just by learning.
Yeah.
Right.
It's truly
and talking.
on-the-job training.
And I have great, I'll call them informal advisors. One in private equity, one in venture. My partner's an amazing advisor. He's in finance. And talking to them without giving specifics, right, of the deal. You don't want to violate an NDA. But talking about, okay, am I thinking about this the right way? Or, hey, give me a gut check here. And the other thing is, if the deal isn't right for you, it might be right for someone else.
That's right.
And so who in your network can you think about that and I love this, all of the acquisitions we've done, as well as the ones that we've looked at, have come from people in my network.
Wow.
saying, hey, Cate, I think this might be a fit.
That's
Would you be
awesome.
open to having the conversation? Sure.
Yeah.
What's a 30-minute conversation?
That's right.
I'm going to learn, and maybe there's something here, maybe there's not.
Right.
So, and again, I go back to learning, and I loved how you said your background, this detective. You know, I didn't even think about that. My dad's an FBI agent.
Oh, right.
And I love always like, I'm not analytical, but I'm
wow.
definitely like inquisitive, and I want
Yes.
to know more, and I want to like see what's in there. And maybe there is something ingrained in me that's like, that was my dad, is my dad, and always trying to find the facts,
Yes.
right? It's not,
my
you're not giving me the
gosh.
whole story here.
We are so
Yes.
aligned.
Yeah.
My background with the behavioral science was so interesting. It came out of nowhere. I started doing mediation and kind of realized I loved the psychology of things, but didn't want to be a psychologist. And you know what's so interesting is I use that skill so much more than I thought that I would. But my dream job, I always say, is hostage negotiator, which I feel like I am doing in this space.
You know what mine
in
is?
very unique ways.
Wartime photographer.
Oh my God. Together we would be
I mean,
amazing.
that would be, we go together.
Oh my God, you'd be getting good shots of me.
Yes, I don't know why. That's just always something. I feel like they're put in positions that they have to be obviously understand their surroundings, but still, I love. I do better in stressful situations.
same.
I like demand. My best boss ever at JP Morgan was the most demanding boss I've ever met in my life, and I excelled under him because he was so demanding.
Those are personality traits. I'm so glad you said that. I want to make sure somebody hears that there's nuances to your personality that may make you great for this. I was told a long time ago now that I was very masculine brained, and I didn't really know what that meant. But what it really meant was I thrive in chaos. I'm not afraid of a challenge, and I'm truly a dog with a bone in the best way. Like as a friend, if you need me, I'm still that dog with that bone. Yeah. In the boardroom negotiating a deal, I'm still a dog with the bone.
And I'm the give me the facts.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to analyze. I'm a decision maker.
Wow.
I'm very, my partner and I are very different. He's an analyzer. You know, think about if we had to buy a TV, I would just go right on Amazon, pick the first thing that looks good. I'm like, okay, I don't really care about all the different 4D, HD, whatever. He would sit there for months analyzing to make sure it's the exact thing that he wants. So
That's me.
but I need just enough facts
Yeah.
to make the decision, and then I'm going to make the decision. And my team, I'm like a broken record with my team, and I think because my view is when somebody comes and says, I either need a new resource, or we should, get this platform, or we should do this, or I need more money. I say, build your case. Give me the facts so I can make an informed decision.
So you're still a detective at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. I feel like sometimes these are personality traits, I'll speak very frankly, especially as women, that weren't necessarily looked at very well for a very long time. And I always say this, so it's very clear. People know I was a hot mess express in my personal life, but business came very easily for me because of that.
Same.
Wow. We're like the same person.
And I said this on a panel a few weeks ago at Luminary. We were doing, it was about financial health and wellness. And I was moderating this session. It was about estates and wills and all. And I said to the audience, like, I know I come across like I'm all put together. I am put together. But personally, for most of if you were to walk into my office or even sometimes my apartment or my house, it's like, whoa, look at my closet. It's like a disaster because my business life is where I focus on that organization, and everything else is like,
I love it.
Yeah.
That discipline is freedom, no matter how you look at it. But for some of us, it's so much easier to do outside of like family of origin, partnerships that didn't go well.
Yeah.
And I think what's so unique is I'm hearing you say this. It did not occur to me to even talk to you about this, but it may be a good place for us to land is because we've had so many things that we do similarly and different. Like I hear your skill about making gut decisions and I'm like, man, I could use that skill. I am hemming and hawing over every little thing, double guessing myself. And where I have seen probably the greatest area of unlock now, this new version of me that's much healthier, more balanced is around partnership. And I think about this all the time. I'm like, what's the miss of my career 20 years ago? And it was that I was so focused on the outcomes that I was like this, just getting it done. And it wasn't even for money because I never spent the damn money except for businesses. Yeah. But like truly was so focused on the outcome that I didn't think about who can I bring along on the ride? Yeah. Who can I partner with? Like on the way here, I literally said to you, hey, I got a business I want to throw your way.
Yes.
Because I don't need to take this on myself.
Right.
If I know there's a better operator, an operator that we can partner on, it may not even be this deal, but the thought process around partnership is something I wish I'd gotten to earlier in my career. I mean, we're here now and it's wonderful. But I'm curious how you think about that now. Like, would you consider acquisitions in partnership? Would you consider a JV?
I think you should never say no just because. Yeah. You have to evaluate. I most of my career was in, large corporate America, 3 of the largest banks in the world. And I remember at Bank of America, which was one of the, I spent many years in the earlier part of my career. And I don't know if they still do this, but I still use it. I remember my first year on performance evaluation, and they sort of said, we're going to grade you on the what, so your results, and the how you get there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Yes. And by the way, that is how I have judged my own performance and my team since then. That's 20-something years ago. The what and the how. And for me, in working at Bank of America and JP Morgan, HSBC, the what is the what, right? I can get you results and our team can get you results. But to survive in those big companies, you need partnership, you need stakeholder management, and you've got to navigate relationships like that's your job.
That's right.
And so I think this is why I tell people all the time that never say never. I'll likely go back to corporate or go back into finance at some point in my life because I loved that part of my journey, and I do miss that. But I think it taught me so much about how to approach partnership, how to think about nothing is black and white. Mm-hmm. And so maybe it is a joint venture. Maybe it is let's date before we get married. Mm-hmm. Maybe it is some type of strategic collaboration. It doesn't have to just be, especially in the case of an acquirer or an acquisition, I'm just going to buy.
Yeah.
That may make sense. And again, who's on the other side of the table? What do they want?
Yep.
But there's also ways to think about, okay, let's start with, Hey Mama and the crew were both Luminary partners.
I forgot you did tell me that.
And so I got to know their business model, their customers, their founder, their teams through those relationships.
Yeah.
So that when those opportunities came to me, I knew the business, I knew the team, and then I obviously had to get into the numbers and sort of the monetization of it all. But those were people I already had partnerships and collaborations with that I could point to. And then when we went out to the market, it wasn't such a hard, how do I get from A to B? It's like, no, we already were working with the crew.
Right.
We were already recommending the crew to many of our corporate partners that were looking for peer-to-peer coaching because Luminary wasn't going to build it.
Right.
And the same with Hey Mama. We had been working with them, doing events with them for years. And so we knew them. They did, in our New York space, they would do lots of co-working days. And so we knew them. And so, did I know the ins and outs of the business? No. But that was like 90% of having that conversation, which I think made the conversation, it could go one of two ways.
Of course.
But made those, let's really lay this out on the table and what's going to work for you and what's going to work for me.
That explains a lot too, because it does seem like there was, I won't call it a seamless integration from the outside, but I actually knew of those communities before Luminary. Yeah. And I remember seeing what you were doing with so many friends in common, and especially in New York City. And I just remember thinking, wow, that's so amazing. Like, how did she source such perfect deals for her and for her community?
Yeah.
Without knowing much at that time, right? Yeah. So that is interesting.
And then our first acquisition was a company called Declare. They were, when they started, they were called Parity Partners. We knew them because we had, in our first year of business, we we had a lot of overlapping members.
Interesting.
And one of our members, who's still a member, she's amazing, came to me and said, hey, I'm involved with them. They are looking for opportunities to exit. Would you be interested in having a conversation? Wow. And now this is in hardcore pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm trying to make sure that we're still alive. Right. But what's the harm of having a conversation?
Yeah.
And that was a great opportunity for us because that was purely really a B2B play for us on the professional development side. That's really what they did very well. And many of those clients that were part of that business are still our clients. And so that's also great. And seeing that, now 6 years into that, or 5.5 years into that acquisition, that clients remain.
It's huge.
So
anybody who's ever acquired anything, like pizza at the end of the day,
yes.
children,
yes.
businesses, to have a long-lasting experience, for the pizza to be good at every bite.
Exactly.
I mean, truly is a testament to what you're building.
Listen, I think this goes back to the ego thing, I remember in the early days of Luminary, and listen, it's never easy when you lose customers, right? But you go, okay, I remember taking it so personally, like, what did I do wrong? And sometimes it's just not the right time for them, right? And that's okay. Just like I make decisions, we're consumers at the end of the day.
That's right.
And our lives change and the seasons of our life. But I think when you think about, this idea of acquisition or merger or JV, be open.
Yeah, that's a great advice point.
And if it doesn't happen right when you want it to, you never know where those conversations can come around. You never know how that business could look in another year or two. Could be better, could be worse.
Yeah, that has been my favorite thing to start thinking through now, particularly because in the pandemic I was acquiring, and I was one of the few people that was kind of not afraid because I was acquiring digital assets.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I had already finished my brick and mortar journey and really focused on things that I knew could thrive no matter where the world was headed. And I think about this a lot now, which is, what is my existing business community asset have, and what is it missing that we can monetize a little bit more? Not because I want to squeeze every dollar out of a client, but because I want to think about their entire holistic life cycle, where they spend their money, what they do. And I'm wondering if that's on your trajectory of thoughts about with Luminary. Is there other aspects of the Luminary client that you're thinking we can do something with this if we had the right thing, asset,
absolutely,
service? Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're looking at a couple of different, I'll call them different verticals that would add value to the community and and the customers, but also to us, that are still in they're lane adjacent.
Yeah, makes sense.
So not exactly in what we do today, and I would say from the outward facing sort of, everyone thinks, oh, you're a community of members and you talk to entrepreneurs. That's one part of what we do, right? 50% of our B2C business is entrepreneurial members, but the rest of our members work in the traditional workforce.
Interesting.
They're wanting community, they're wanting education, they're wanting connection. And because we do so many workshops, events every single month, it's not all focused on entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's focused on skills building. It's focused on career pathing and pathways so that you can navigate what your journey is today and what you want it to be. So, and then on the B2B side, we do both internal, where we're working with people and culture and talent and ERGs. And then on the external side, we're working with brand and marketing and really looking at those companies that are talking to small business owners as consumers. So you also have to just keep I go back to keep an open mind, have the conversation, and you know what? Maybe if it doesn't work out, don't shut the door all the way. Yeah. Leave it a little cracked, and you never know where it could come.
Now, given that, would you ever start something from scratch?
Again? No.
Oh my gosh, same.
Never.
It's not for me.
No.
I'm an acquirer of people, places, things.
And I am very okay with saying that. It's funny because so many people, when I say that, they're like, wait, what?
Yeah, I'm mostly horrified.
Yes.
See.
I get the whole like deer in the headlights. Like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, this is it. Like, I'm not a serial entrepreneur. I'm not going to go build. I have friends that are doing this and I'm like, the more power to you.
Yes, I'm very happy for them actually.
But that is not me. And I'm okay with that.
Yes.
And I love the business that we've built and continue to build. I don't know how long we'll have it, right? Like you don't know how long these journeys are.
That's right.
And I think it's a different world that we live in versus companies that were built 50 years ago.
Yeah.
But I'm also very much, because I know that I spent so long in corporate America and I loved it and I loved that journey. Although many entrepreneurs will go, you could never go back to corporate. I think I'm a bit of a different person in that way because I work so much in the B2B landscape.
That's fair.
And they're basically my bosses, right? Because there are big clients, they're big companies. I've got to kind of manage through those. And it's like you're working inside a big company when you have those big clients. But I will never... And there are two things I will never do. I will never build another company like what I've done, and I will never write a book.
Oh my God, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
100%. And my reasonings are very aligned as well. I think about efficiency all the time. I always say efficiency is my love language. And then my kids would tell you productivity is also my love language.
I mean, okay, your kids will tell you that. My partner would be like sitting here going, oh my gosh. Yeah.
So when I think of that, I think there's just so much in the ecosystem that's available. When you think of like business from that perspective, is like, to be fair, do we need another lipstick company? Sorry, ladies, we do not. Yeah. You can roast me for that if you want, but I truly believe that we're not exactly in the business of creating needs as much anymore. And when I think about amazing, thriving businesses, you know, what happened with Ghost Democracy was a unique one. It was my most recent acquisition, but because I understood how great the products were, how much they spent in venture to build up that product line, I was really excited to be able to take that on and give it a new home, so to speak, because that's efficient.
Right.
And then to add on to it more productive ways of getting the product out there, just it lit something inside of me that I finally have come to a place of acceptance. Like, this is just who I am.
Yeah.
It's maybe why I'm not a natural mom and I'm an adopted mom. It's why I acquire businesses and why I'm continuing to look for acquisitions. Even though I do invest, my thought process is always around my ecosystem of that woman that I tend to serve. You know, she's fitness, beauty, health, wellness minded, but she's also thinking about the future of work and the future of money. And that is where I'm putting a lot of my effort right now so that I can affect the world even more than I am right now.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. Thank you so much for being here. This was so much fun.
This is so much fun. I know. I love it. I'm
There's
so glad.
I forgot we were filming.
Right? I know.
Probably scratching
Yeah,
something.
no,
I had a
amazing,
blast.
amazing. And these are the conversations I think need to be out there. And for anyone that's listening or watching, you know, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, I think that is a great place to end. Is like, I don't think I knew everything on my first acquisition, humans or business.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually one of the best things that you can do is to do the research, ask, and then sometimes just dive into the pool.
Absolutely.
Know that you got some floaties, whether that's financial floaties, partner floaties, people who can guide you. One of my favorite things to do right now is apprenticeship. So I believe this is a skill that you can learn.
Yes.
And you can't really do it in a course or, you know,
yes, I think that's
format.
fabulous.
So it's a thing that I'm doing specifically right now to get the word out there about acquisition, not just to be acquired, and then especially with women who are creators. Because if you already have that creative brain, if you already have attention, you've got a big part of the equation that a lot of businesses fail with as someone who owns an agency. And so if I can help a creator partner on something that looks more entrepreneurial, more enterprising for them, there's not all creators like that, but it's a very interesting niche to start to see movement on.
Yeah.
And I've got some exciting opportunities with them coming out soon.
Amazing. Well, thank you for having me on
Anytime. You have to come back.
I will. I love Dallas.
You heard it first.
Thanks for joining us. Now go out there and turn your success into action. Generational Growth is about helping you in every area that matters: mind, body, business, and self-care. Share this episode on social media and LinkedIn, and feel free to send us where you feel strong and where you need support.
Please note, this content is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered financial or professional advice. always consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. Some of the products and services mentioned may involve financial compensation or partnerships.